All right, guys, in this video, I am going to hit the reset button about TexitCoin and the documentation that I've been seeing on their website and my interpretation of those things. It's my understanding that many people that are investing in TexitCoin are not familiar with the crypto space. And those of you guys that do follow my channel, you are familiar with the crypto space. So when we see words like miners and decentralization, we understand it just by default in context of cryptos because this Texit coin is supposed a crypto project, right? It's a coin that can be mined. All right. So as I was been reviewing the documentation, and I do give a shout out to Team Texit because you guys did make a great comment in one of the videos to say, hey, when you talk about decentralization, it does cause a degree of confusion. So I am now looking at this. I'm looking at the documentation from a person that is not familiar with cryptos, and I am going to use something as simple as Google to identify what these definitions mean. So in this video, I am going to step through some of the documentation and I am going to ask some of the difficult questions with the new understanding of what I have about TexitCoin right now. Okay, so let's start off with these definitions, guys, because on TexitCoin, I know they often talk about miners, miners, miners. Now, of course, for those of us in the crypto space, we know that a miner is something that you use to mine a proof of work token with, as in an ASIC miner. You guys that are not familiar with cryptos, you could just do a search on ASIC miner and find out what that is. These are the miners that TexitCoin is purchasing in order to mine cryptocurrencies. So with that in mind, I also just did a search on what is a miner, right? And a miner, as by definition, according to this dictionary that Google uses, is a person who works a mine or a person who obtains units of a cryptocurrency by running computer processes to solve specific mathematical problems. And it's in that context, guys, that TexitCoin, because I'm on their website here, I said, what are miners? Miners are individuals who participate in the mining process of cryptocurrencies. So when we are looking at TexitCoin, guys, whether you are in cryptos or familiar with cryptos or not, we have to understand the context of when they say miners, they could very well be referring to each individual or mining seat that has been purchased by an individual. Okay, so that's one definition out the way. The other definition um, I has I have is about the decentralization of the platform. Okay, so they say, hey, the mine refers to physical infrastructure where TXC is mined. It is a decentralized operation built in Texas. Now, initially, again, for those that are familiar with cryptos, when we see decentralization, immediately we're thinking, hey, Texit coin in and of itself is not decentralized because we're thinking of it in the sense of control, ownership, or governance, right? So that's what we initially think about when we see the term decentralized. But for those people that are not familiar with cryptos, you might come out here and say, hey, what does decentralized mean? And when we look at the Google definition for it, it says here, controlled by several local offices or authorities rather than one single one. Okay. So this is essentially saying, hey, instead of having um, your mining equipment in one location at XYZ address, you'll have one at XYZ and ABC and DFF, right? So you have it in different locations. And in this regard, when we come here and see the answers that TexitCoin is given, we have to go ahead and grant them that they are not trying to be deceptive in saying that their operation is decentralized. It's not TexitCoin that's decentralized. It's the operation of the miners or the mine, which they refer to, or all these miners running, that is decentralized. Okay. So again, both you guys that follow me and are familiar with cryptocurrencies, let's not come in and look at TexitCoin and say, hey, they're trying to mislead people in this regard, because they are truly using definitions that are in line with um, the definitions for traditional people, people that are not familiar with cryptocurrencies. Okay. Now, with that said, what I'm going to be doing in the next few videos that I release about TexitCoin is addressing um, things that were listed in this article here. They talk about themselves, talking about the green flags, the red flags, the risks, and all that are associated with TexitCoin. So there are some that I don't believe are mentioned here, and some things that I kind of want to bring some light on. But for the sake of this video, I want to do exactly what they mentioned here in this first paragraph and kind of keep it short and sweet to that right there. And true enough, in the crypto space, guys, over 90% of stuff you find in crypto is going to be a scam. And um, we'll get into that. I ain't going to say anything right now, but I'm going to let you assess whether you think TexitCoin is a scam or not. But nevertheless, they open the door to say, hey, it's literally scams, blase, blase. But that doesn't ever mean that every opportunity is a scam. And if you're looking at TexitCoin or to mint TexitCoin, we want you to look closely. Okay. And this is what I'm going to help you guys do going forward, is looking closely into TexitCoin. They want you to ask questions. I'm going to ask questions. They want you to scrutinize everything. I am going to scrutinize everything starting in this video. And they say they welcome it. So hopefully they respond to some of the inquiries that I speak on in this video. Okay. So with that said, um, let's get to the first question I had, because initially you guys are selling hash power for $1,000. So initially I was thinking that when I come in, I am buying $1,000 to build a mine that is going to be used to where the hash is going to be used to mine TexitCoin and TexitCoin alone. However, quite a few of you guys have dropped some comments and mentioned that TexitCoin is minting, using those miners, the ASIC miners, to mint other cryptocurrencies, which is cool, right? I was not aware of that. And when I did a search on it, just to kind of pull in some information on what exactly are you guys mining outside of TexitCoin, I see that you are mining Litecoin. Okay, so these are the two that are listed on the website. So my first question is, what other cryptocurrencies, if more than these two, what other cryptocurrencies are you guys mining with those ASIC miners? Because some people have mentioned Doge. Some people say you might be mining Bitcoin. I would recommend Bitcoin because that's going to be the most profitable. But we would like to know that information, right? So as an investor coming in, considering whether I'm going to invest or not, I would want to know all of the tokens or cryptocurrencies that you are minting or mining with these ASIC miners that you are purchasing. Okay, so that's question number one. The second question I have, guys, is what percentage of the total hash power that you're using in all these miners, what percentage of that hash is being allocated to the mining of each cryptocurrency, right? So to be specific and really clear, if you're only mining Litecoin and TexitCoin, what percentage of that mining hash is going toward Litecoin and what percentage is going towards TexitCoin? Now, with my understanding right now that TexitCoin is a controlled blockchain that only you guys control, then there should be limited hash going to TexitCoin. So I would say 95+% should be going toward the mining of Litecoin in order to generate revenue, right? Because you know what you're doing with the TexitCoin that you mine from the few, it should be a few miners that you use. So that is the second question, guys. What percentage of the hash power, and if you can give the specific amount of hash that's being allocated to that, that would be great information to have. The third question to piggyback off of that is how much revenue is being generated from what is being hashed on Litecoin or any other cryptocurrency that you are mining. Now, this is going to be important, guys, because initially I'm looking at TexitCoin like your only source of revenue is through recruiting, bringing in other members. And of course, that is not sustainable, guys. However, if TexitCoin is using these miners to generate another source of revenue, whether they're mining Litecoin, Bitcoin, Doge, or whatever the case is, if they're able to do that on a regular basis, if they're doing that on a regular basis and bringing in that revenue, this is what we need to see. And we need to see transparency on that. Okay. So that is the third question. How much revenue on a daily basis, weekly basis, whatever the case is, are you receiving through the mining of these other cryptocurrencies outside of TexitCoin? Okay. Now, this takes me over to the dashboard display because here, guys, we see the amount of revenue coming in. Now, we know for a fact that you guys are mining Litecoin. So my first question from this angle is, if you have at this stage of the game, the use of funds, you have a total of $99.85 million, okay? How much of that, or first of all, does that include revenue from the mining of Litecoin and other cryptocurrencies? Or is this right here revenue strictly from the sale of mining seats? So that's the fourth question I have. Is this $99.85 million that you have collected, is that strictly from the sale of mining seats, or does that include revenue that you're receiving from the mining of Litecoin and other cryptocurrencies? The second question I have now that we're on the dashboard is this income. What does income mean? To me, income means this is money coming in, right? So how can money come into something that you're saying, hey, this is how these funds are being used? That means it should be receiving another 32.23 million. So this income is not clear. Does that mean income for the people that work for TexitCoin and for Bobby? Help me understand what this income signifies. I understand what commissions are. I understand what liquidity is. I understand what mining is. I understand what the overhead is. I wouldn't understand what promotion is, but this right here, to name it income, is not clear. So since such a large percentage, to the tune of $32 million, is being paid out in income, I would like to be very clear on where that money is going, okay? All right, now with that said, guys, let's jump into the liquidity, which affects the price of the token, the TXC token, okay? And what I want to do, guys, is run a quick clip of this video, this TexitCoin miner update on September the 30th, and see what Bobby is saying about the liquidity that they have available, okay?
$1 million. We literally have $1 million sitting on a Bitcoin cold storage wallet, and that's it. It hasn't moved. There it is. There it is. Now, We also have 1,024,000 in Ethereum, and we also have $1 million in USDC. These are on cold storage wallets, guys.
All right. So this comment he mentioned here came from this link. He was referring to their path to $16 on February 2026. And he was looking at the existing price and this here say, hey, we need to have this much liquidity in support of this type of price. Okay. And this was done, that video was recorded at the end of September at the time. So the price was $2 and or 75 cents. Well, the price was greater than that, but the base price, there's like, hey, we don't want the price to fall below this 275. And in order to accomplish that, we need to have at least $3 million available in liquidity. Now we are in October, okay? And they are currently holding a minimum price of $3.79, right? So if we come out and let me do a quick refresh on coin market cap about TexitCoin, and we'll see across all of the exchanges, they are definitely maintaining a minimum of that $3.79. Okay. So my question right now is, when I look at what you are doing to support this price, I came out to Dex Trade and I looked at that 379 level because Body talks about this in the video, and I see that there is a large amount to purchase anyone that wants to sell TexitCoin up to this amount here, and that's to the tune of about $210,000. Okay, now understanding, guys, that this is already available on this particular exchange, this Dex Trade exchange, right? Well, I'm sure they have to do the things on those other exchanges as well. So this question is, does when I look at, let me come back here, when we look at what is available in USDT, we have $1 million out there. If you click on this, it's going to show you there's about $1 million. Click on that. It might be a little bit less than $1 million worth because the price of Bitcoin came down a little bit. But let's consider there's $1 million here, there's $1 million here, there's $1 million here. So technically, since all those assets are sitting in cold storage on these wallets, and let's say it's at a $3 million valuation or whatever the case is, this what is it, this 210,000 right here, that clearly is money sitting outside of what is in cold storage, right? So my question is this an added capital injection that is over and above the 3 million? Or is that something that you guys will dip into the cold storage wallet and say, hey, we just flew through $210,000. Let's pull out another $210,000 from our existing liquidity in cold storage and use that. Okay. So essentially, I'm trying to understand here, guys, is what you have in cold storage, is that in addition to extra liquidity that you're using to support the price, or is it being used to what's the word I want to use, refund any payments that were picked up here? Hopefully that question is clear. So essentially I'm asking, hey, is it 3 million here or is it 3,200,000, right? Which of the two? Because these assets are sitting out here in cold storage. So that's that question. Is this the minimum amount that's used, or do you guys have additional resources that are used to help support the price on the exchanges? The next question I have is about this gold. So time has passed since last month. We are now in the month of October. I click on this link right here, and this shows me absolutely nothing, right? Um, this wallet has a zero balance. It's a TexitCoin wallet, but this shows me nothing about gold or the holding of gold or verifying that you actually do have some gold bullion in hand to help back the price. So I would like some type of transparency, clarity on if you actually have this or not, or and what it's worth. Because coming into the month where we're in, well into October, and you're saying 5 million is the liquidity that's required. Well, we have one, two, three, and I would assume that's supposed to be another million or 2 million. I don't know. But whatever that is, um, make it fulfill that $5 million, but verify that that gold bullion is actually available, right? Okay, now with that said, I only have one more question, guys. And this question pertains to fair wages or payouts for your investors. So if you are a potential investor in TexitCoin, you really want to pay attention to this. You guys that are in TexitCoin now or working for TexitCoin, I would love to get a clear explanation because what I'm about to do is run through some math. Okay. And this is one of the things that halted me from participating in the platform once I realized it. And now I'm going to share this with you guys because the return on investment is not as profitable as I initially thought. And a lot of people get in and don't realize that until the end. So let's do some math, guys. Let's follow along and see what we're talking about here. But before we get into it, guys, check this. One of the things that TexitCoin constantly talks about is quote unquote honest money. Okay. And just as a quick history, like back in during the Roman Empire, they started creating their own currency with silver and gold and precious metals. And the powers that be, the government officials, the tax collectors, all that, they learned that they could shave off a little bit of the gold or the silver from the coin and keep that in a stash for themselves and then pass off the coin to somebody else under its perceived value, right? So it was actually less than that, but they were getting away with that for a long time. Since then, all throughout Western society, that same type of technique has been going on, right? We had it with the U.S. dollar, right? They had that gold standard where these dollars that they were printing were backed by gold. They were creating what quarters and dimes with that had silver in it, and over the course of time, they stopped putting silver and started using other metals in it. Over the course of time, the gold started disappearing. So ultimately, that's why we are where we are today with the United States dollar, where there's really nothing backing it as far as value is concerned. It's basically the US military that is keeping the dollar up, right? And one of the things that Bobby is trying to do is create fair or honest money, right? And that is very difficult to do when an individual like Bobby controls it. Just like the United States, the Federal Reserve, they control the currency, right? And they devalue the dollar just by printing more of it, right? So now that things are more digital, they don't have to shave those carvings off or take out the precious metals. They're just printing more infinitely, right? Which devalues the dollar for us that are receiving it. Okay, so is TexitCoin really honest money? So let's start getting into some math here and let's step through an example. All right, so we are going to start. And I hope you guys just understood what I said, right? What I mentioned about honest money, because Bitcoin is honest money. I can go out there and buy some Bitcoin today. I'll get my little fraction of Bitcoin, however much I buy, and I can hold that, sell it at any given time, right? Can I do the same with TexitCoin? Yeah, if you buy it at one price, you can. But if I'm paying to get TexitCoin, if I'm paying to mine and get that TexitCoin, am I getting my fair share worth? So that's what we're about to look into. All right, so let's start this with, let's see, there's um, a video. Well, let's start here because this right here is key. We're going to do a single minimum purchase of $995. And with that, we get 100 mega hash of mining power. Okay. We got to keep this in mind, guys. We're paying $900. We're getting 100 mega hash, and this is going to pay out in TexitCoin. Okay. Are we getting our fair wages? Let's jump over to this video here. I like the way Terrence presented it, and this is just my go back to because I can see what the deal was based on the TXC he was receiving, based on the amount of hash power that he had. Now, we're looking at these dates. Let's go to the most recent date. And also, before that, notice that as time passes, guys, the amount that he's receiving typically gets lower and lower for the most part, right? That's because new miners are coming in, and if the price goes up, it's probably because more hash was churned out during that 24-hour period or whatever the case is, right? But typically, I'm sure you hear it in all the campaigns, as more people buy into the miners, the reward becomes lower and lower for each person. So we're going to use October the 10th, well, no, October the 3rd in this example. And we see that he received 2.65 TexitCoin for running 400 mega hash. Okay, so that's 265. I'm going to pull out a calculator real quick. All right, so he got 265, and we're going to divide $2.65 TexitCoin divided by 400 hash is that. And because we're going to come in and purchase one with our $1,000, we're going to multiply that times 100 because we're going to get 100 hash. Okay. Therefore, on October the 3rd, had I bought into this system, I would be getting 0.6625 TexitCoin a day. So let's start logging this information, okay? I purchased a mining seat with $995 and will receive 0.6625 TexitCoin. All right. I hope that's clear to everybody. Y'all follow me on the math so far. This is what we would receive on a daily basis. We're not going to convert this to US dollar. We're just going to stick with TexitCoin. All right, now, guys, let's jump over to this dashboard here. All right, and let's look at some of the numbers this is cranking out, right? So this right here gives us the hash rate, which is coming from these miners that are being purchased by TexitCoin. And I showed you in a previous video that indeed Bobby is purchasing miners, and some of the miners are being used to mine other coins. Now, this is the amount of TexitCoin that is shared on a daily basis, and I put both of these on a daily basis, right? Now, let's go to October the 3rd. And keep in mind, this green bar here, you notice that's the hash rate, right? So the hash rate on October 3rd was 294 gigahash, okay? We are receiving 100 mega hash. So let's convert that gigahash into mega hash. So gigahash here, that was 294, okay? Of course, you just could have multiplied it by 1,000, but I just wanted to bring up this calculator here just so you guys can see that the numbers aren't being fudged and be able to easily follow me on the math, okay? So that 294 gigahash is 294,000 mega hash, okay? So let's jot that down. On October the 3rd, total mega hash was 294,000. Okay. Now, keep in mind that I've bought into TexitCoin mining on October the 3rd, and let's say it was right at the tip of the morning, so I'm able to get it for that full day. What does that mean, guys? That means for the day of October the 3rd, I own 100 mega hash. Therefore, my percentage of the total mining is 100 divided by 294,000. Okay, and let's see what that comes out to. All right, 100 divided by 294,000. All right, that comes to a total amount of that. I'm just going to copy that, paste it here. With that E -4, that's like 4 zeros, so we'll do like 0.0003401 or something. Or you can call that, if you want to put it in percentage, that would be 0.03401%, right? So for the day of October the 3rd, we have now invested $995 of our money, right? And out of that, we should be getting 0.03%, not 3%, but 0.03%, because we only had 100 mega hash out of the total mega hash that was done in that day. Now what we want to do, guys, is calculate the rewards. How many rewards were paid out in that day? And we are going to go back to these charts, which they give us. They give us this dashboard, right? So let's use this dashboard and the information herein. And that was again on October the 3rd, right? That's October 1st, that's our 2nd, that's October the 3rd. So on October the 3rd, based on the hash power that was used that day, the rewards were 92,000 TexitCoin. Okay, that's how much was distributed to all the wallets based on the mega hash, right? So if we multiply that 92,000, that 92,000, we'll just say 92 times this amount here, which is the percentage that we as an investor, a new investor just came in, we will multiply that times 92,000. Now, based on what I'm seeing, my payout for that day should have been 31 TexitCoin. Okay. However, when we looked at Terrence's video and saw what he's getting paid out, he got paid what, 2 point something for 400 mega hash. Well, if we had 1 mega hash, this is what we are essentially receiving. That is a huge difference, guys. 31 TexitCoin compared to 0.6625 TexitCoin. That is crazy. So somebody help me understand, because based on this math and what I should be receiving, I should be getting a lot more for my $995 investment. So this is the question I have to present, and I am open to receive any valid verification, justification on why the payouts are so low. Because again, people are investing in it and seeing minimum returns from this. Okay, so that's the last question I have for you guys. And what I'm going to do to address each one of these questions, I'm going to list them in the comments so that whoever can answer the questions effectively or with knowledge, please drop a reply, because we need to understand these things as investors. All right. I think that's all I got for you guys in this video. If you got any comments or questions, leave them below in the comment section, and we will holler on the next one. Peace out.